in the flesh, I was able to get back in my faith. But this journey also allowed me to learn more about the body and recovery and nutrition, the importance of rest, which of course, your coach tell you, you're doing too much. You need a break. You can't go to football practice and track practice right after. So many things. When you're young, you don't listen. You just do it, right? You have the energy, so why not? I was in that time span. You playing football, spring football. You're doing try. You're doing summer try. You're doing 2-a-days in football in the summer. It was continuous work. Poor nutrition, poor rest. So that muscle, over time, it gave up. Grade 2 tear. And of course, how did you not know you had a grade 2 tear? Well, environment, culture. You see, being a man, you don't go and ask for help. At the same time, being an athlete, you're told to, no pain, no gain. That's the mentality. And so this is something you train. You go to the LA trainer. Well, you're not really hurt. Of course, you putting the icy hot, the Bengay, you doing the ride, rest, ice, elevate. So you're doing all of these different things. And so the muscle, as I'm speaking to the chiropractors, because I recently went back to the chiropractors and the goals and projects, so that way we can be our best. So you're speaking with them, they'll tell you the muscle actually recovered and it heals. And it's amazing how the body works, because it finds new connective tissues and different neural paths to connect with the brain to keep everything moving. And so they are assigning different workouts to keep the hips and the hip flexors mobile. Welcome back everyone to the Goal Season Project Week 5. My name is Roosevelt. I thank you all for tuning in. In Week 5, we are going to look into injuries. We have titled this Thorns in the Flesh. Before we dive into the episode, let's now go over our tip of the week. As you get older, your core is very important. It helps you keep your balance. It helps you keep upright, to maintain an upright posture as you walk, as you do certain activities around. You want to continue to be mobile, and having a strong core will keep that mobility going. All right, so let's now go into, again, this week's title, Thorn in the Flesh. When we look into a thorn, that idea, it stems from the Word of God even. So in the first book of the Bible, in the 3rd chapter, Genesis chapter 3 and verse 18, after the fall of man, we see that they were given certain consequences, and we see the result of sin itself. The Bible says, Genesis 3:18, that thorns and thistles shall the earth bring forth. This was the man's punishment specifically. Shall the earth bring forth to you, and what? You shall eat the herb of the field. These thorns, those things represent hardship. It represents toil that he may have not to go through in order to sustain his life. There will be hardship, there will be difficulties in this life. Thorns will be there. Or specifically, this thorn in the flesh. We see it being spoken of in Paul's writing. In 2 Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 7, we see Paul says he has this thorn in the flesh. And these thorns in the flesh led him to devote his life more consecrated to God. 3 times a day he was going to God. So, and Paul's thorns, these were things he had to overcome, hardship, toils, more so with others, persecution, so many things. Those were the thorns in his flesh. Yet he says further down, I would rather glory in my infirmities, because when I am weak, then I am strong. You see, Paul's thorns in his flesh led him to God, led him to be more self-surrendering. And so I'm only saying this because I learned I had a thorn in my flesh in 2020 after COVID. I had went to the chiropractor because I was having some pain in the right quad, and then they look into it. They said, "Well, you have a grade 2 tear. You know, it's a muscle tear. So when you have a grade 2 muscle sprain on your right quad, when did this happen?" Well, I'm telling them, well, around my junior year in high school, like 2013, and they're saying, "Really? Well, how could this have happened?" Well, you know, I running track, play football, just explaining it to them. So it came out that it was overwork, lack of nutrition, lack of recovery, not enough resting, overworking the muscle. And so over time, muscle tears. Although it tore, it repaired itself. The muscle repaired itself over time. Around that time again, running track, playing football in the spring and the summer, track also in the summer. So I was really year round with it, and I did not understand the recovery. Although some coaches, they will tell you, "Hey, you just came from football practice. What are you doing? You take some rest. You don't have to go to track practice, etc., etc." But you're young, you're trying to do everything, right? Thorn in the flesh. Well, they're telling me, well, the muscle actually healed. It's just more so we just want to go into some work to get the pain away. So they had to do what they had to do. They had to do their work where the pain subsided. And so they did so. They worked their tools, what they need to do to get the pain to go away over time. And then that was fine. This thorn in the flesh, it caused me to be more self-surrendering, right? I had to allow others to work on me. So I had to, so I can improve my health. Fast forward 2023, I go back to them for the strengthening of it. So I kind of did that. However, through this Goal System project, I have went back to the chiropractor to make sure I'm in a goal season condition. As you may say, everything firing, everything functioning at a top level. And so this is why I'm doing this video, to speak about this thorn in the flesh. And then speaking with the chiropractors, again, they mentioned, yes, the muscle is healed. However, there are some things we have to do to increase its mobility, the neuromuscular tissues with the brain and the muscle connection, the stability of it. We are going to do and implement some things to improve that. And you're going to see some of the things I do through the week. As the year goes by, you will see some of the rehab stuff that I do in order to remedy this thorn in the flesh. Many of us have different thorns in the flesh. When you look at Usain Bolt, the fastest man in the world in history, had his thorn in the flesh. He has scoliosis. You know, that is a condition with the skeletal system, the spine. And so he had to do so many different rehab work, strengthening work for him to run with scoliosis. And going through those tough times, he was able to run the fastest time in world history. So many different things athletes do for rehab and recovery that's catered to them because of their specific thorns in the flesh. And so embracing those thorns, those hard times, those trials, we can be successful, because without the thorns, there are no roses, right? You can't smell the fragrance flowers without going through all those thorns. The rose comes with thorns. You know, that there's beauty in the suffering, some say, right? And so in order for me to be at my top self, I have to cater to this thorn in the flesh. It is a catering that will lead to being stronger, to being faster, to being more flexible, more stable, more agile. So catering to my thorn in the flesh is only a blessing, but in order for me, again, to cater to this, I have to be self-sacrificing. I have to be willing to allow others to assist. because I cannot do it all my own self. And so trials in life come where it will lead us to God. You know, it will make us to be dependent on a higher power, just like Paul. His thorn in the flesh led him to God to be strengthened. Our thorns in the flesh are there as well to lead us to God. Forget about that pesky neighbor. Bring it to God. Allow God to give you that grace. Forget about that annoying coworker. Bring it to God. You know, it's a means for our salvation. Many of us, we have different thorns in the flesh, whether it be diabetes, whether it be so many thorns in the flesh that you have to say, okay, surrender to self and let God take control. It leads you to die to self so that you can receive help. You know, when you talk about whether it be community help, so many other things, there are so many resources out there for us to get help and assisting us with our thorns in the flesh, but we must be willing to be assisted. Can you imagine that? You know, dying, that's how much self-surrender it takes for someone else to take care of you. You see, Jesus, he gave up. He gave his life up, naked on the cross. The humiliation, you know, what he had to go through. You know, the thorns. He had a crown of thorns. Hardship, pain, agony at the cross. Gave it all so that for us, so we can be saved. And so this is the type of self-surrender we need in order to go to God. You know, these thorns in the flesh, it is for our benefit. But you know, I'm mobile. You know, everything is agile. It's just more so this thorn in the flesh, it is to better myself. You know, to be stronger, to be more powerful. You know, and God has his way of remedying every defect. The body is an amazing creation, how it can heal itself over time. It's since the first time I went to get therapy for this, it was 7 years, 2013 to 2020. 7 years. Yet, look, it healed itself. It's just more so we have to do some work on it to get the pain away. Boom, boom, boom. Pain went away. Now I'm going back again. The pain is not there per se, but we now have to do some work to getting it stronger so that way you can perform at a high level. And so that's what we're working on with this thorn in the flesh. It's very self-denying. However, in this self-denial, you learn lessons of self-surrender, of overcoming, and of being stronger in your weakness, like Paul. And so this is week 5. The Ghost is in project, Thorns in the Flesh. Remember to share, like, and subscribe. Until next time, Rose Gold out.